Hi, beautiful soul. Rachel Skoltalk, angel medium and spiritual teacher here. And today I'm talking to you about ego. We're going to talk about how ego affects our spiritual gifts, our ability to manifest, our ability to intuitively connect to our angels and the guidance within us, and why we have an ego, what ego does, how to tell when you're in your ego and when you're in your higher self. And we'll talk a little bit about how to overcome the ego as well. Now, I teach in depth about this in my Angel Communication Practitioner program because it's really something that's important when you're developing your psychic abilities and you want to give readings, whether for yourself or others. You're bringing through messages, you're bringing through healing. I've often heard light workers, gifted healers, intuitives and guides say, oh, I'm afraid that I'm in my ego, and they're not. They're assuming that ego is the part of them that wants to succeed as a healer or an intuitive guide, or they think that it's egotistical to want to make money in their spiritual business so that they can pay their bills and see lots of clients. And that's the confusion, is a lot of people think that ego is a negative thing, and that any shred of ego in a spiritual person who's out there guiding and helping others is a big no-no. And I'm here to tell you that that's not entirely true. There are times when ego comes in when it very definitely is not serving you or your clients and your highest good. It's actually cutting you off from your angels, your guidance, and your true path. And we're all susceptible to that. At any point in our pathway, sometimes there's some very experienced spiritual people who flip unexpectedly into their ego over things, because all of us are here in Earth School. We're here to learn and grow, to develop our soul. And as we work through the different levels of that, we reach new ceilings, right? We hit fears, we hit old patterns, we hit beliefs or challenges that where the divine is saying to you, are you going to choose ego, or are you going to choose stepping into your higher self, trusting in the divine and connecting with your spiritual self? So let's go right to the beginning and talk about what is ego and why do we have it? Because, it's a valid question. Like, why on earth would we be given an ego? Why have we got one? So what is ego? Ego can be described as your lower self. So that can be true as in it's when you have negative thoughts, when you're fearful, when you're picking out the worst case scenario, when you're judging yourself or another. It's a lower vibration, lower emotions, lower thoughts. And it's also the part of you, the small self. It's a little bit like a toddler or a little yappy dog, where it's, that's mine. And it's all about me, me, me. So when we see people with, some people that have got extreme egos, that their ego is overbalanced in their life, they only think about themselves. They're not interested in anybody else, or how what they do affects other people. But ego is on a scale. If you imagine it like a polarity, at one end is that extreme me, 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 grabbing power, trying to control, over, projecting negativity and negative thoughts on people, and being completely cut off from your soul and spirit. And then at the other end is the smaller version of ego, which is, we all need a little bit of ego, because the point of the ego is that it separates. The ego isn't connected to your spiritual self. It's not part of your soul. When you finally leave the earthly realm and you go over to the other side, you won't be taking your ego with you. You'll be just going with your soul. Your soul is eternal. Your ego is not eternal. And you know this because the ego is always thinking about fear, right? Worst case scenarios. It's very much about this lifetime, this body. So if you imagine yourself as a soul, a spiritual being floating around in the spirit realm, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go down to earth. I'm going to have a body. I'm going to live a lifetime. So you get your body and you get your ego to come with you. And your ego is to remind you that whilst you're on earth, you are separate from other people. So you've got to feed the body. You've got to have a little bit of ego, which is healthy, to remind you when something is wrong, to run away or walk away or stand up for yourself. A little bit of motivation, right? I'm going to start a business and I'm going to serve others. It stops you from being like completely like, oh, I'm one with everybody, and then you forget, to feed yourself or clean your teeth or to present yourself nicely. So your ego is needed as part of your earthly life, and it reminds us that we're separate from other beings in a healthy way, as in, I have to feed myself as well as you. I have to look after myself. I have to look after this body. So it does serve a purpose, because we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And so we need a little bit of ego to remind us that, to behave a certain way, that we have a consciousness. So ego is there for that. It also, that feeling of being separated from others. It's like, I am I and you are you. And, we're not just one, even though on a spiritual level, we are just one. We've each got a soul that is connected to the divine, and that light within us is one with the divine. And if we, when we say namaste, the spirit in me sees and acknowledges and honors the spirit in you. We're setting aside our ego and saying, I see that underneath the identity, the clothing, whatever body type, shape, culture that you are embodying this lifetime. And don't forget, you've had many lifetimes and will have many lifetimes, and you'll probably embody them all. That's why prejudice is so ridiculous. That it reminds you, like, okay, namaste, I see that there's behind all of that, in your eyes, I can see there's light, that you are a soul. And that's quite difficult to see in some people, isn't it? Sometimes, especially if we are upset, hurt, angry, we can't see the soul within them. And the divine, our angels, our spiritual teachers remind us that ultimately the fear, the judgment, the hurt, the heartache can be forgiven, because forgiveness comes from that soul part of you, not the mind, not the ego. And the ego can't conceive of forgiving another and saying, oh yeah, okay, I can see there's a soul in there. So, we've got this duality going on all the time, which is our spirit versus us having to live in the present moment, deal with people, manage money, find a career, all of the things, look after our health, look after our bodies. So the ego helps us to remember that part of us, and that we remember at a soul level that we're here for a reason. So that's the good side of ego. If you think about that sort of scale, the polarity of, like, there's the big ego, and that's where we have problems. And we all can have problems with our ego, because our ego can get really affected by fear. So when we're affected by fear, and fear takes control of our mind and our lives and our decisions, then ego is in charge. Ego is driving the body, the lifetime, instead of your intuition and your soul. And so that's why it feels so good when you start to learn spiritual techniques, the spiritual truth behind everything, because that's a remembering and going, okay, I don't have to live a life driven by fear, lack, scarcity, worry, judgment, criticism. I can actually live my life from a different perspective that doesn't involve that self-comparison, negativity, beating yourself up, judging yourself and others, because that feels so bad. So when we start to learn, okay, there's something else we can connect with, which is within us. And I think we always know that. Let me know in the comments if you always had that feeling, even before you understood spirituality, that your soul was guiding you, and that there was more to life than just the 9 to 5 or the going to work, and or the external, the mundane. So our soul is there to guide us through this lifetime so that we meet our goals that our soul has set us, whether that's forgiving, learning certain spiritual lessons, going through certain experiences, having certain relationships, achieving certain goals, living out your purpose. So the soul is there to guide us, but we hit a problem when it is in direct conflict with our ego, where our ego will say, well, that doesn't sound very safe to give up your job in a bank. That's what I did, or in a more corporate setting. I was working for the public service in the UK, and start an angel business. Like, that doesn't, because ego is not part of your soul and spirit. It's not tapped into your angels or the divine. Your ego is just about life now, society rules, fears, all of the stuff that affects us in the material world. So of course your ego is going to put up a fight when you go, okay, I'm going to follow my purpose. I'm going to write that book. I'm going to go on this path. I'm going to start my angel business. And it's going to it's going to, through your thoughts, it's going to give you all of the reasons why you shouldn't do it. And it can get really loud. The more afraid your ego is, the more fear that's there, the louder it can be. And it can even magnetize other people's egos to you. So I can remember when I first started my business, so many people told me not to do it 23 years ago. And lots of people told me this is ridiculous. You're going to fail within a year. These are people who are close to me, by the way. But the whole way through, I was like, but this is guided. I know, I trust my angels. I'm, I feel so good about this. I'm so excited about it. It feels so right. I'm going to do it anyway. But that wasn't to say I didn't have fear. My own ego wasn't having a bit of a tantrum about it. What about if you don't make any money? What if people laugh at you? What if you attract awful clients? All that sort of thing. So I pushed through and did it anyway. And then I was about to open doors. I was working from a little office on the side of the house. And I had a local artist make me a board to put out on our gate, because we were sort of a couple of miles out of town. So if I wanted there to be an easy way for them to spot, okay, there it is. So I had my business name, Beautiful Soul Healing. I had a painting of an angel. It was beautiful. It was bright. Angel medium, angel readings, angel healing, all these things. So the night that we put that out and it got screwed to the gate, I had I can still remember it now. I had the worst night's sleep, which was imagining people from the neighborhood coming up my pathway, shouting and screaming, almost like a medieval scene with torches and pitchforks, like coming to get me, to tell me off for doing this ridiculous thing. My ego threw up all of these scary scenarios, these nightmarish, you're crazy, people are going to think you're crazy, people are going to stop talking to you, you're not going to have any clients. And I can remember that night being the absolute worst night. And that's the dark night of the soul, where you doubt everything. You think you're completely mad, you're going to give up and run away into the mountains. That's how I felt. But I'm so glad I didn't stop. I didn't let that stop me. I recognized it at the time. And I asked Archangel Michael to clear my fears, because then I could see, I knew what they were, right? Fear of punishment. Perhaps there was a past life fear there of, maybe I'd been attacked in a previous life for sharing my gifts. So I was able to clear the fears. And when I cleared the fears, my ego quieted right down. So ego is fueled by our unhealed fear patterns, beliefs, experiences, programming even that we get from parents, society, other people, where we're like, we've been taught on some level, like take the road that everybody else travels. So when you start to release those beliefs, expectations, fears, the programming, the patterns, you detox that energy out of with the help of the angels, your ego voice, the one that's telling you can't do it, the one that's magnetizing other people to you to tell you can't do it, the energy that self-sabotage, you don't even realize you're sabotaging yourself, but you are, that starts to shrink the voice of the ego gets quieter, and the voice of the angels, your higher self intuition, becomes louder. And that's, that's proven. I've proved it to myself, and over the years, I've done lots of training in my ACP program, Angel Communication Practitioner, and we do a monthly attunement for the public where you can come and have fear cleared with the angels. It works because once you clear that fear, the energy that's reflecting to you of blocks, barriers, other people's egos, your own ego, they just sort of dissolve, because fear is false evidence appearing real. And that's what fuels the ego. That's what makes it go from just being this little kind of protective, reminds you to focus on self, reminds you to check before you pull out of your driveway, all those sort of things. It grows into something that focuses your entire life on fear, seeing through the fear goggles, thinking fear. And I see fear as, I'm clairvoyant and I'm an energy healer. For years I've been working as an energy healer and a clairvoyant, is that so many people would come to me with, I've got this problem, I have that problem. And I could see how fear had created it. So for instance, if you're not hearing your angels, if you're getting a lot of negative thoughts in your head, a lot of, you can't seem to shift a pattern of fear, judgment, other people judging you, things people have said and done to you for, before, that's a sign that your ego has gotten hold of these things and it's using them as fuel to keep you small. Now it thinks, it's like the yappy dog, it thinks it's keeping you safe, but it's a questionable form of safety, because it's like a prison. It's a comfort zone, which is a prison. It's not actually protecting you at all, because you feel awful, right? And all of this is going on. You might be keeping yourself, down rather than safe. You might feel like, oh, well, I'm in my comfort zone. At least I recognize this, but it feels terrible and it's not fulfilling your potential. So when we start to remove, whether it's a cord, whether it's multiple cords, usually that energy is often, over the chakras, which is where the source energy comes into us. That's inspiration, healing, intuition, good ideas, positive thoughts, what you need to function in the world as a full spiritual being in a physical body, to be the full potential of you. The energy gets blocked, warped, choked off, and the ego becomes the loudest, the biggest force in your world. So it makes sense that when we start to clear out those old fears, those old experiences, the cords, the attachments, the entities, the dark energy, maybe it's come from someone else, you've absorbed it. Maybe you've had someone criticizing you, judging you, giving you their problems, and you've absorbed them. Same thing, tips you into your ego. Ego becomes loud. What if? Oh no. Question everything, doubt everything, judge yourself, judge others, compare to others. A very big sign that someone is in their ego is when they're judging other people, they're putting other people down to make themselves feel better, or they're judging themselves, they're hard on themselves. Same thing. There's two types of ego. There's the ego that projects onto others. It's their fault. They're in the wrong. They did this. I didn't do it. Doesn't take any responsibility, or very little responsibility, is always putting it on other people. And then there's the other ego, the neurotic ego. It's my fault. I did it. I'm to blame for everything somehow. Feel guilty, feel shame, absorb other people's energy. People bully you, people put on you, people drain you, use you. It's still the ego. It's just either projected outwards or projected inwards. Either way, it's not serving your highest good. So you need to release it. Now, as I say, a deep clearing with the angels, very powerful, because angels know how to transmute energy. So as a clairvoyant, I was saying that before, I see energy as dark. So it's like either clouds, depending on the intensity. So maybe you've had a really hard time. It could be a big, thick black cord. It could be thick black clouds around your crown chakra affecting your thoughts. It It could be hardened into something that looks like calcified, blocked energy. So the angels have always shown me that. And as you pull the energy out, you're taking out the thoughts, the emotions, the root cause of it. So as that lifts, you're sort of starving your ego, and it can calm down. Maybe it's a sense of like, well, I don't have to be in charge anymore because there's not all these threats coming in at me from the past, and it can go to normal size, and your intuition and your angels really kick in. And what I've noticed happens is that when we clear that fear out, the energy of the person's life shifts, because that fear, that ego, has been controlling everything from relationships, health, addictions, money, belief in self, and it's been affecting your connection to the universe. So as soon as you start to clear, and I see this in angel communication practitioner all the time, because we do a lot of clearing of fear, because as people are developing their gifts, this is the conflict, right? The what if I'm not good enough? All the fears start to come up loud. So we're able to very quickly move them out of the way. People change. Suddenly, what was bothering them before, mental health issues, addictions, bad habits, toxic relationships, everything starts to shift because the energy has shifted out of ego and fear feeding the ego into lack, limitation, stuckness. You don't need those coping mechanisms anymore in order to survive. You're suddenly connected to the highest energy of all, the divine frequency. Things start to flow. The angels literally take you off one path and put you on the other. It's like, I still am in awe, even though I've been doing this for decades. I'm like, oh my goodness, every time I see this happen with somebody, it's so powerful. That's why there's so many, good reviews on my page, because people have experienced not just what it's like to develop their gifts and communicate with the angels, but the result of switching out of ego into your higher self, into your divine, your true self. Sorry, a bit of fluff. So I hope this has been a good explanation of what the ego is. Just think of it as like a little overprotective dog. But the more you feed it with fear and negativity and other people's egos, right? You've got a lot of people who are egotistical in your life, who are driven by ego. Perhaps they're not even interested in changing. That can seep into you as well. Just like namaste, the spirit in me honors the spirit in you. Ego can trigger the ego in me, can trigger the ego in you. So we don't blame, because we don't want to get into that kind of even more ego, right? Oh, it's their fault. You have to take responsibility for your energy and yourself soon as you're aware of it. And we can also say, thank you. This is a lesson, right? New level. I'm moving to a new level. Someone's ego has triggered my ego. I thought I was done with that. I'm not. I've got to clear it. What do I need to do? Clear the fear. What's the fear? So clearing, releasing, forgiving. Forgiving is just cord cutting. We don't have to get mentally involved in like, oh, that person really hurt me and now I've got to forgive them. That's hard. But if we go, okay, I no longer want to be attached through toxic, negative, and ego energy to this person and what they did to me, we release it, which is just what forgiveness does. It releases that painful attachment, and you're able to let go and come back into your higher self and let go of the fear. The fear is no longer what they did, how that made you feel, is no longer got its claws into you. It's gone with the angels. They've transmuted it. So it doesn't matter how your ego got triggered or how it's absorbed into your energy, but making sure that you recognize what's happened is really 75% of the healing, of going, now I know what's happened. I've absorbed something. Clear the energy. Clear what it brought up for you. Work with the angels. I'll show you how. And then after that, bring in divine energy. Set the intention to connect with your higher self, with the angels, with the divine. It's all the same energy. And to shield and protect your energy so that you're no longer as susceptible. You've got boundaries there, both energetic, physical, psychic, and spiritual, that say, you can't just bring a big basket of ego, fear, and negativity to my door, judgment, and drop it there. I'm not going to take that on. And that's huge at, maintaining your energy, maintaining yourself, walking that clear path and not skipping off, down the rugged goat track that often our ego will take us in. So how do you know when you're in your ego? Okay. So when it comes to intuition, often people will ask me this, and I'll talk about this in my masterclass. But ego is usually the one that's telling you can't do it, you're not hearing the angels. Also, if you're getting random answers, do you know what I mean? It sort of doesn't make sense, or it's like 1 minute, oh, the angels are saying this, next minute, oh, the angels are saying that, and it's contradictory. That's a sign you're in your ego. True guidance, your higher self, your angel's guidance is always repetitive, consistent. You can see how it's going to enhance or change your life in a positive way. It doesn't blame, it doesn't judge, it doesn't ask you to do anything that would make you unhealthy, unhappy, or uncomfortable, or harm yourself or another. Whereas the ego tends to be derogatory, judgmental. It measures. Am I better than this person, or am I worse than this person? It's always like this. It's always comparing. It's contradictory. It's random and ever changing. So, 1 minute you wake up and go, oh, I think I'm going to move to Africa. And the next day you wake up and go, actually, I'm going to move to India. It's, when true guidance comes through, it's consistent. But the ego trying to fix things is like a really unhelpful friend that doesn't know anything about it and just wants to take over and control. So that's another symptom of ego. You're trying to control everything, trying to force things. So ego is controlling. It is judgmental. It is either better or worse than everybody else. It doesn't like to share or forgive. It creates drama. So if you haven't had much peace in your life, how is ego controlling you? Is it you getting plugged into other people's dramas? Are other people bringing you their dramas and you're not saying no? Are you, getting involved in things that are none of your business? Are you having dramatic, fearful thoughts, worst case scenarios, making up stories, making up arguments with other people? That's ego. That's a sign that ego's in charge and you've got to clear it. So ego, fear, false evidence appearing real. It convinces you that the drama, the fear, the worst case scenario, the you're not good enough thoughts are real. And you've got to come back to FEAR, false evidence appearing real. The world of fear and drama and ego is an illusion. It's not as real and as strong or anywhere near as powerful as divine energy. So the minute you flip out of fear and into your higher self, you do some clearing, you connect with your angels, you do something that lifts your heart, opens your heart, you are going to shrink your ego's voice. It's going to turn down the volume, and that's when the angels can get through. You'll part the clouds, literally, because they never leave you. Your intuition is always speaking to you. It's just you're not hearing it because you've got this loud, yappy ego telling you things that are not true. And you don't have to buy into it. That's the thing. You don't have to believe the thoughts, the worries, the concerns. Instead of worrying, pray. Dear angels, please help me with this. Help me overcome it. I surrender it to you. Let go of control. So there's so much more I could teach you about this. But if you'd like to learn more, come and join me in Angel Communication Practitioner. We have a whole module dedicated to how to overcome fear and ego, especially if you are wanting to grow a spiritual business. You're wanting to help others, to serve as a light worker, and you can feel that your ego is, and most of the light workers that come onto my course are always people who have the self-attacking ego, right? The I can't do this, I'm not good enough, it's my imagination, what if I get it wrong? And how can we give a reading to somebody if our inner voice is going, no, you can't get it right, no, so I teach you actual techniques to stop that and shift it so that you can fulfill your full potential. You can open the doors of infinite possibility. You can attract the clients. You can work with people without that fear niggling at you all the time. It's so important. So, learning this is in depth. It's something that's more than I can share on a reel or a quick video on YouTube. But I hope that this has really helped you to understand ego. Let me know in the comments, like, what's your ego like? Sometimes we've got 50-50. Like, sometimes it's blaming everybody else, right? Because it's not fair. Everybody's after me. And sometimes that's right. Somebody is harming you, and you're not in your ego. You're right, but you've got to not allow that fear to tip you into your ego, because that won't help. You're not connected to your divine intelligence, your own wisdom when you're in the ego. We've seen people in traffic who are in their egos. They're not dealing with problems with wisdom. They're acting out. So, understanding how your ego works. Is your an ego that attacks other people, or is it blaming you, beating you up? Or is it a bit of both? And if you can see that, you're already starting to separate and take back control from your ego. Because if you can laugh at yourself, oh my gosh, that's even better. But allow me to teach you how to, because your intuition and your angels have messages for you, but they can't get through if your ego's running the show. So let me show you how to overcome that in simple ways, simple techniques that really work. And then you will leap ahead. You will, because you will have overcome one of the most difficult things that is part of being a human being, part of being a physical, spiritual being. That it's one of the things we've come here to learn. It's part of our soul purpose to learn this. Do you get that? That makes me want to cry, actually. So don't beat yourself up, though, if you've got ego, because we've all got one. I would guarantee there is not one person on this planet, if they are, they're in a cave somewhere in India, that is not dealing with some ego. Because it comes as a package, right? But we are here to learn to overcome it, because that means we learn how powerful we are, and that power can actually work in the world. So what's affecting your ego at the moment? What fear is fueling your ego voice right now? Maybe that's the place to start. Angel blessings. I'm here to answer your questions. I'd love to see them in the comments. Sending you so much love. And if you want to get in touch, you want to find out more about my programs, my monthly classes, or even my free offerings, just check in my description or send me an email and let me know how I can help you. All right, angel blessings.